Welcome back, everybody. I'm Christopher Brannon with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Cooperative Information Network.
And I'm George Williams. I'm the Next Search Catalog Coordinator at Northeast Kansas Library System. And today, well, if you watched our last episode, we talked about some changes that the Coeur d'Alene Library that Christopher had set up for them to do interlibrary loans and their workflow. And they made a bunch of changes using frameworks and a whole bunch of other things. And he's going to explain some more of that because he's done some more work on that with notices and template toolkit and all kinds of fascinating stuff. So we are a part of the education committee at koha-US. You can find our website at koha-us.org. If you go over to share and click on special interest groups, this is where you can see all of the different special interest groups that we have currently meeting. There's information there on how to join when those groups meet. And everybody is welcome to come. You don't have to be a member. All you have to do to take part is to show up. You can also, if you go to our Learn page and click on video playlist, that's where you'll find all of the episodes of this video series, as well as links to other playlists in the Koha community. And if you go directly to YouTube and find our koha-US site on YouTube, you can see video recordings of past meetings and there's a playlist there with all of our previous every other Thursday training videos. And it's a great idea to like and subscribe and click on the bell so that you'll get notified whenever there's a new video.
Absolutely. Also comment on our videos. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what has worked for you, or if you have some great ideas, throw them at us. We always welcome those ideas.
So take it away, Christopher.
Yeah.
Let's see what you got.
I'm really having fun with ILLs. I feel like this has been an aspect of Koha that I have, not looked at enough, and I feel like doesn't get enough attention. So I wanted to explore this more. And as we talked about, the holds queue and the counts on there, it unraveled some things. It uncovered some things that came to my attention that I wanted to dig in deeper on and see if we couldn't resolve. And so that led into our last video. And just to briefly recap what that last video is, we talked about creating an ILL workflow that included frameworks. And what we did, we went into the MARC bibliographic framework, and we created something similar to a FASTAD framework, but we called it ILL requests. And it's a very basic, it's very basic in what content is in there, because it's supposed to be added quickly for our interlibrary loan specialist.
Wow,
so,
I don't think it could get any more basic than that.
Yeah.
Just 5 MARC tags.
Yep.
That's a tiny framework.
It is. Well, I mean, it's, about as small as a FASTAD.
Yeah.
In this one, we have a few more things than the FASTAD, because we're adding specific elements to the actual item itself, not just the record. But we do create, on the title statement, we create a default value ILL request so that stands out in the title. And then we do also create some location information in those subfields, and I can't remember off the top of my head which subfields are which.
Location, I think, is E.
So we created a not for loan status, and we set that up to a default value of -4. That way it wouldn't bloat our holds queue prematurely. We wanted to make things unavailable or not show as available, so it wouldn't go in the holds queue right away. So That has been taken care of with that status. We set up a default value of ILL for the item type. So we have an item type. This is our default loan period. It really doesn't matter. You could have whatever loan period in there, because if you're going to manually put your due dates in there, then it doesn't matter. But we set one just in case. But in our case too, we did not want things on loan to be renewable. So we did set up a particular item type. We set up our loan periods through those item types. And so we told it that this can't be renewed. So, and we also set it so that it could be placed on hold once. And that allows the specialist to be able to place it on hold for the patron that requested it.
Mm-hmm.
So those items are set up in there. And so when we create the record, we go into cataloging and say, I want to do an ILL request. You fill out the title, and then you save that, and then you put in the specific information. So I'll just walk through that real quick here.
You already have one called "This Is Not a Test."
That's funny. It's a CD. That's funny. So no, this is a new record. And then, so here it puts that not for loan status. It puts in the default cost replacement. That was another one I didn't show. It puts in the item type interlibrary loan. And then I also showed that I had set up some jQuery to do the specific, the library code, and then the ILL after it for the call number. And then you can plug in the barcode for it.
Right.
And I will say that, okay, this call number thing, I have a little bit of an issue with it as presented in the last video, because in Chrome, it works just great, but in the latest Firefox, for some reason, jQuery is not firing exactly the same as it does in other browsers. And so this isn't getting populated as well as I'd like. So I have to kind of do some more research on this, because that jQuery is not, even when I'm telling it to wait till the window's loaded, it is not always filling that in there. I have to clear the cache in Firefox in order to force it to fill it, and then it's still not consistent. So there's a little bit of an issue with Firefox at the moment that I'm trying to figure out, and I'm doing some research on. So if I figure that out, I will share it in a future video. But we do try to put in a call number in there. So all that said, the record is created, then we can place the item on hold. I'm not going to do that for this. I'm not going to create this one for now. But you can place the item on hold for the patron. I already did one here. So this is placed on hold for patron. And in our video, I mentioned that our library goes ahead after we place the item on hold. When we are receiving that item, we go ahead and trigger the hold for the patron. So we check it in, trigger the hold, and it sends out a hold notice to the patron. And then we already check it out to the patron, because while it's sitting on the hold shelf, it's counting against the loaning library's loan time. So we have to check it out right away, because it's due a certain date.
That's pretty common at a lot of libraries,
yeah,
in my experience. So
there's two things I wanted to address here: the notifications and that last part with checking it out immediately. First, let's talk about the notifications. As I said, it sends out a hold notice, and I wanted those hold notices to be more distinctive for ILL, because the pickup instructions for ILLs are slightly different than our are holds. Our holds normally, except for high priced items like books on audio CDs and computers and things like that. Those things live behind the checkout desk, but all the rest of the stuff, the books, are out on a hold shelf ready for patrons to just grab and check out. They know the process for that. But when we're dealing with ILLs, it's a little bit different, and we always want them to pick that up behind the checkout desk. And we have a little bit of instructions to give on that, because those items have to be returned specifically to the library that they're picking up at. So I wanted those notices to be a little bit different. So I went into our notices and I decided, okay, I'm going to try a little bit of template toolkit and see if I can't customize that specifically for ILLs. And I thought about how I was going to do that. So let me go into our test server. Here's our hold notices for our library. You can do it for the default if everybody's on board with the same workflow, or you can customize it per library. But I did this for all different formats, but I'll just show the email here. And the first thing that I did is I hacked the subject line. And this is important. You'll see when we're looking at the patron notices, but I hacked the subject line so that I'm looking at the item type. I'm changing the item type to ILL. So if it's ILL, it's going to start off with the term ILL. Else, it'll start off with the term hold. We'll end that if else statement, and then the rest of the phrase that is comment. So it's going to either say ILL or hold available for pickup at, and then the branch. And this is something I already knew we could do. This is helpful to identify those messages from your particular library if you're looking through the notices. This is really, really helpful. But I didn't know before or realize that, oh, I could do some template toolkit in there as well. So this is really handy. So I can distinguish now in those notices between ILL notices and hold notices. So this alone made it possible for me to invent a whole new notice for ILLs that didn't exist before.
Right.
Using the hold notices. And then within the body, I'm using the same if else statement to create separate messages for the ILLs versus holds. And so if it's a hold, if it's an ILL, it's going to do this message through here and has the specific instructions for it. Else, and then here's the specific message for holds.
Right. And
then we have our end tag. So I have two messages, two different notices within this text box, depending on if it's an ILL or if it's a hold, or a regular hold. Right. If it's an ILL, it's a specific message. Otherwise, it's the general hold message. And so what that ends up looking like, I go into my test patron. You look at your notices. You'll now see I've got holds available for pickup at Coeur d'Alene Library, or I have ILL available for pickup at the Coeur d'Alene Library. So I can tell the difference between the two. And then it has its very specific messaging for that ILL versus hold. So it's talking about ILLs and, contact, our specialist, or, call this number if you're going to cancel, that type of thing. And it's saying that to pick it up at the checkout desk, pick up your ILL items at the checkout desk. So that's what we did for notifications. I think that's a little bit better and clearer for the patron and for staff when they're looking through the notices. But for the patron specifically, they know what they're dealing with when they get to the library. Now, the second thing I wanted to point out was that workflow. When we have the item, I said we
you normally check them out as soon as the item arrives at the library, right?
Right, yes. So I'm going to go back in here real quick and walk through that. I'll revert that so that we have the request, then the item comes in, we trigger the hold, patron is notified, and then, you know, normally at this point we go to the patron and check it out. So we would click on this, click the patron, and then go ahead and check it out. The problem with that is that once you check it out, it goes into the checkouts, and if
I can totally see what the problem is here. The patron comes into the library and they go to the circulation desk and they say, I have a book that I need to pick up. And then staff goes and looks at their account and they have no idea what the patron's talking about because the item isn't in their holds queue. It's already checked out to them.
Exactly. And in the past, we would put a message up in the corner about the ILLs. And we had contemplated, well, since, you know, we're doing it this way, we could still manually put the message in it. And it kind of defeats the whole purpose of going through this workflow, because we want to make it as simple as possible for staff and for patrons. I mean, we have the added bonus of notifications now, which is nice, but you know, those messages can be left behind accidentally. And so whatever we can do to reduce the amount of work for staff is always a plus. So I didn't want them doing that. So we talked about it a little bit, and, you know, I was thinking, man, there's just no way for Koha to know, you know, if we check it out, there's no way for it to know that the item is, you know, where it is. It hasn't been picked up or not. You know, this is part of the process. When you check it out, that's indicating to Koha that the item has actually indeed been picked up. So we thought about it and thought about it and thought about it and thought, okay, well, what we can do is when we can not check out the item to the patron. We always put these slips in the books for ILLs, because it has specific instructions about how to handle the ILLs and where to return it. And, you know, the actual due date is on there. And we thought, okay, well, what if we do this? What if we don't check it out? It's still behind the checkout desk, but it's saying here that it's waiting for me. I can see up here that I have a hold waiting for me, and this one is an interlibrary loan, so I know it's behind the desk here. I go grab it, and then I say, okay, I need to put in that specific due date. It's going to be due by this time. It's a little bit shorter because you know, it took a while for the patron to get there. So I put in the due date, and then I check out the item. And it's a not for loan, so that's why it gave that warning, but it is now checked out with that due date. And so we just have to remember with our ILL process, because we have a process, we have a spiel that we go through with the patron when we check it out. This will also help solidify that when we're doing this, we're going to remind them it's due on this date. This is a specific due date that's different from the regular due dates. So when we process those ILLs, we have to remember to go in here and change that date for every ILL that we put in there to specific to that item, and then check it out. So this resolves our issue of, you know, that lost communication is, where's the item? Patrons don't have to figure it out. Staff don't have to figure it out. It's just all right there, and it fits within our usual workflow. Right. So that is my update for ILLs. I'm really enjoying getting into ILLs a little bit. In fact, you know, we talked about this, and I'm hoping maybe in another video in the future, we're going to talk about our other idea that you had touched on briefly at the end of the last video about you don't want to hand out cataloging to the people that are handling the ILLs, and so you wanted them to use the fast ad. And
yeah,
so
we have our fast ad framework gets used for two different things. We have a lot of circulation desk staff that handle adding magazines to circulation, so they use the fast ad framework for magazine when new issues arrive, and then the ILLs are also something that some of the staff at some of the libraries add ILLs that don't have regular cataloging permissions. So what I'd really like is to see Koha have the ability to define more than one fast ad framework, but this idea that we've both had of, you know, having a way of clicking a button in the framework and pre-populating some fields in the fast ad framework, that would be a good temporary measure.
yeah,
There was just a button up there that says this is an ILL or this is a magazine, and it can pre-populate some of those fields.
yeah, and so, you know, when you go into the fast ad, you're creating the record and then you're creating the item. So we'd have to create a button in a couple places. We'd have to create one on the record for, you know, to change this to whatever you want that remainder title to be, if you want it to be something else. And then on that item, another button for, you know, ILL.
For the item record, yeah.
To plug in the information specific to that item. So hopefully in the near future, we can do a video on that, follow up with that, and show how we can accomplish that.
Yeah, I've got some ideas about how to do that, and I think you've got some ideas too.
It'd be nice if it could be all done in one, but since it's a two-step process with a record and then an item, you'll have to press a button a couple times, but it is doable.
Yeah.
So
I want to, you know, I want to share something on my screen that I think would be useful for people to see.
okay.
And so I wanted to remind everybody that there is, like the jQuery library, there is a template toolkit library on the Koha community wiki. So this is a place, you know, if you're out there and you're writing stuff that's got some interesting stuff in template toolkit, there is a place where you can go and post that to share those with other people. So I just wanted to point that out really quickly.
Yeah.
Because I think some of the stuff I saw you doing in template toolkit there looked pretty cool. So
yeah, and it isn't very, this template toolkit usage is not very complicated. It's mostly an if-else statement.
yeah.
So that isn't difficult to do, and you don't have to look up anything for that other than knowing how to put in an if statement and then knowing the else and end tags.
Yeah, I think the biggest difficulty I've had with template toolkit is that I spent a long time learning how to write notices and slips using the double angle brackets that are, you know, kind of a Koha only thing. And so now I have to go in and learn a new system for doing it. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of great examples there in the wiki. There's some good examples that people have posted, and it's an area where I think we should probably be doing more to share.
Yeah.
To share what we've created that's unique in template toolkit.
So, all right.
Well, you're doing some cool things with your workflows and ILLs, so I look forward to see what you come up with next.
I'm having fun.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for another video, and we'll see everybody again in a couple weeks.